Mr. Corrao for the Europe of Freedom and Democracy. Thank you, President, colleagues, Prime Minister Renzi. The election campaign's over, but we in this House of Democracy have heard you talk the same old story: development, growth, flexibility, but not a word about for the millions of citizens who are systematically excluded from all decision-taking processes that bear on them. You talk about discontinuity, but what do you mean by that? With change, new generation? Appointing Jean-Claude Juncker President of the Commission, appointing Martin Schulz President of this Parliament, Social Democrats, People's Party handing out chairs and jobs comfortably between themselves. We really want change. We want a different Europe. We want a Europe that is different above all with the sort of treaties and agreements that it enters into and its policy line. We've heard you speaking with excitement about the fiscal compact, but nobody's ever talked here about a social compact or any kind of rebalancing compact. Obviously, you're not interested in anything like that. We've seen you enthusiastic about the Stability Pact mechanisms, but there's no such excitement about a European social stability mechanism with income and jobs and stability for citizens. And now we hear you with great enthusiasm talking about TTIP. It sounds fine, doesn't it? Now, if there is really going to be a chance for multinationals to go to court against national governments, then we will really have achieved the most perverse dream of globalization, governments controlled by markets. Have you any idea what the consequences are of TTIP, that's to say the free trade and investment treaty between Europe and the United States? It would shut our citizens out. It shuts the doors against any involvement in decisions about our future. It would be good for the multinationals who would get our market, who would be providing our food, who would give us, who would be selling us the medicines that cure us and the air that we breathe. Who's going to stop the Spanish, Italian or Portuguese markets having to accept a GMO tomato made in Texas or Parmesan made in Minnesota? Who's going to protect our geographical typical denominations of origin? And a multinational that hoovers up all of these small companies which represent historically the fabric of Europe's welfare. Who wants this treaty? Who's pushing it? We in the Five-Star Movement, starting in July, we'll be acting in all committees boldly and transparently against this treaty. Citizens must be allowed to have their voice heard. We, Prime Minister, expect that your presidency embarks on a different course from what you've told us. Globalization for the European Union is a dogma that we're practically not allowed to challenge or debate. And hasn't the time come where globalization itself is controlling our governments? All these areas open to globalization, Morocco, United States, China, Tunisia, who's next? What about globalization of rights, Prime Minister? Have you ever tried to negotiate at any table about workers' rights for fair competition between European and non-European countries? Do you ask yourselves about the conditions of work in the countries that were embarking on free trade with? What about the Spanish and Portuguese farmers whose farms have to close their doors because of competition from outside? What about Polish and Romanian farmers left without any income? We as European citizens want a future Europe where money goes into tax havens, where jobs are relocated and only head office and management posts are kept in Europe. Where's the protection from social rage and misery in that? And what's the European Parliament doing meanwhile? 200,000 million euros a year moving here to Strasbourg, and a small change against human tragedies like those being lost, the lives being lost off Sicily. That's not the Europe that we want, Prime Minister.